On to step 3, the ratios. So you'll really be comparing these ratios within your industry. In fact, that's kind of the point. But many of them, except for EPS, have general benchmarks for the whole business world. And you'll notice that that's below each ratio. And the green says which side is better. So in this case, the current ratio, most of them are better if they're bigger. But some of them, like the price earnings ratio, it's better if it's smaller. Similarly with the debt to equity, it's better if it's smaller. And so let's start with the first one, the current ratio, which is also called the working capital ratio, current assets divided by current liabilities. Current meaning this year, so assets that can be liquidated within the year, liabilities that can be paid off within the year. So let's go back to our Excel, Alt-Tab to get there, and current ratio. And equal total current assets divided by total current liabilities. So 1.7. I'm better, even better than 1.2. So good me. Right, the next one, quick ratio, takes the inventories out of the current assets before it divides it by the current liabilities. This is sometimes called the asset test. And it's better to be bigger than 1. 1 or bigger than 1. So, so my one quick ratio. And then I'm going to put the numerator in brackets. So it's the current assets minus the inventories, close brackets, divided by the current liabilities. And I am 1, so good. Okay, EPS, earnings per share. That is the net income divided by shares. So net income divided by outstanding shares. 3.3 about for me. And then the price earnings ratio is typically P/E that is written. And that one is share price divided by the EPS that we just calculated. And it should be smaller or better, should be less than 20. So equals the price divided by the EPS that we just calculated. And mine is 11, so yay me. And then the debt to equity ratio, D/E, that is should be 2 or less, and the total liabilities divided by total shareholders' equity. Shareholders' equity. 1.14. So mine is less than 2, so good. And then the return on equity. And that one is, it's a bit better if it's bigger, and it should be above 20%. Net income divided by total shareholders' equity. So equal net income divided by total shareholders' equity. And mine is 9%, so a little bit on the low side. And then the next one is the Z-score. It's got 5 factors in it, X1 to X5, and you'll see that there's a number that you multiply each of these factors by. And it gets a number where if it's above 2.675, then you are not under financial distress, you're good. But if you're below 1.81, they're predicting bankruptcy, and in the gray zone is between those two numbers. So let's start with the first one, and we're going to do what's called a product sum, where we're going to multiply in here these numbers, but then we're going to add each of these that we multiply. The last one is multiplied by 1. So I'll show you how to do that in Excel. So let's go back to Excel, and I'm actually going to put the numbers here. So it's 1.2, 1.4, 3.3, and 0.6. And the last one is just 1. and then we'll figure out the math later. And then so the first factor is total current assets minus total current liabilities divided by total assets. So I'm going to put it in brackets, the numerator, total current assets minus total current liabilities, close the numerator, divided by the total assets. And then the next factor is retained earnings divided by total assets. Earnings divided by total assets. And the next one is EBIT divided by total assets. Total assets. And the next one is outstanding shares times share price divided by total liabilities. So outstanding shares. And because I'm not subtracting or adding, I don't have to use brackets. Mathematically, that's true. So multiplied by the share price divided by the total liabilities. And then the last one is sales divided by total assets. Good. And here I'm just going to call this is Z for public companies. There's a different formula for different factors, different numbers for private companies. Okay, and then the formula here, and before I do all this, I'm going to, I've only done this for 2018, but I'm going to have this, I'm going to select them all, starting with the current ratio, and then hold down Shift and bring it for all the years, and then Control R to autofill it across. There. Now I'm going to do the product sum, or sum product, sorry. And I'm gonna, as soon as I start to type it, it anticipates it, and I'm using my arrow keys to go down to the sum product, and I'm going to use Tab to select that one. And it's automatically array. You may, if you are old enough, you'll know that we had, in the past, we had to put squiggly brackets around to make things an array. That's not true anymore with modern versions of Excel, and it's especially not true with this formula. It automatically puts it in an array. And I'll show you what that means as we do it. So it's the first column, this factor that we're multiplying, and then I'm going to F4 that, because it's going to stay when I multiply it every year is always multiplied by these common factors. And then comma to go the next column, and then I'm going to go to the 2018 year and select those and close brackets. And what this array means is that it knows that there is the same number of rows in these two columns. So it knows to take the 1.2 and multiply it by the one beside it, 0.215. And then add that to the next one, 1.4, and multiply it by 0.45. So it does it for us. That's what a sum product does. And then I'm going to go enter. And then I'm going to autofill this across. I'm going to hold down Shift and select all the area I want it to autofill, and then Control R. And there it is. I have made the ratios.